Hello, sports fans of the Big Ten football world. We're just going to give a grade to the Big Ten teams. It's been a long season. It seems like it's been forever since we played game number one, but we're going to grade each team, starting off with the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm going to give Indiana Hoosiers an A plus because they did everything they were supposed to do. They had the most points scored. They didn't have the most points against them, but 12-0. I mean, it's Indiana. This is the second year Indiana has been relevant in any way in football that I can ever remember. Signetti has done a great job, but more than that, the players are amazing. So we don't have time to get into the details, but they get an A plus, and I think they don't need anything. Coming in at the number 2 slot is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, because Ohio State is a blue chip, blue blood program, them going undefeated is just as good as Indiana. But they're supposed to do that. It's kind of weird saying that. But I give them an A. They'll get an A plus when they win the Big Ten championship. Oregon Ducks, they come in number 3rd. Oregon gets a B plus. They had a lot of competition. They've only had one loss all year. The only reason they didn't get an A is because they didn't make the Big Ten championship, but they were this close. Looking at the stats, I can tell you that being number 6, they're getting into the playoffs regardless of what happens. So you could give them an A minus, but I went with a B plus because they need to dominate the Big Ten, and they didn't exactly dominate, but they were really close. Getting an A also. This is controversial, but you say, how can you give a team a higher grade than, say, the team that was better than them? Because I'm considering the program and their expectations, the viewers' expectations, and fan expectations. They finished 9-3, coming off a season where we all kind of hoped that USC would be better this year to make the Big Ten more competitive. And they did just that. So USC with an overall record of 9-3 is really impressive. I'm glad that USC's back. I'm not really big on their head coach, but he's obviously part of the reason that they are so good, and therefore I am going to give them a great grade. So I give the Michigan Wolverines a D plus. Michigan finished 9-3. They had a chance to dominate the world of football rivalry by beating Ohio State again in the Big House. The reason I'm giving them a D plus is because the fans, the fan base, and the media was hoping to beat Ohio State. It was almost a guarantee. If you're a Michigan fan, you were guaranteed. Now, either that was the case or you knew going in you were about to get whooped. And your entire season rested on you beating Ohio State, because all year long this year, all I saw from Michigan Wolverine fans was, you won the Natty last year, but you didn't check all the boxes. And the boxes to be checked were beat Michigan and be undefeated. Because the year prior to Ohio State winning the national championship, you did all of those things, and you had your head high, you had a crown, and what you should do when you win a national championship is just tip of the hat, we won, we're awesome, now you gotta beat us. But instead you went out and you talked trash to everybody, mainly Ohio State fans, and what happened this year? So me not being a fan of either, I can tell you from a perspective where I hate both teams equally. I don't like them at all. And so you deserve it. You get a D plus. You would have gotten a B because you were 9-3. But Michigan, being a blue blood program, you failed miserably. Especially when you put expectations on your own team. Getting a B here is Iowa Hawkeyes. They finished 8-4. The reason they get a B and not a C, like if you're an Iowa fan, this isn't good enough for you. I understand that. But finishing 6-3 overall in the Big Ten, as far as conference play is not bad, and you're in the best conference in football. So I mean, you get what you get. Washington Huskies, you get a C, average. 8-4 is an average season for a team that's supposed to be good. Um, and I say Washington's supposed to be good because in the last handful of years they've been in the national talks, going to the playoffs. So you get a C. You did okay, but you got to do a lot better. Illinois Fighting Illini. I almost want to give the Illini a double grade. And the reason being is that Illinois is, for the last 40 years, has only had a few good teams. But because of the hype of being ranked this year in the top 25 several times, when you lose 4 games and you play, like for instance yesterday, you finished out the season. I don't care if it was snowing or not. I don't care if it was 10 degrees. Both teams play in the same conditions on the same field. You'll only beat Northwestern by 7. Now, granted, Northwestern is going to a bowl game, but you know they're 6-6 on the year. We'll get to them in a second. But you get a C because you were supposed to be really good. And while in an off year, like not ranked, no preseason hype, you get probably an A for being 8-4 if you're University of Illinois. But you got to get a C because you didn't deliver. I mean, it's so disappointing too, to see the fan base be disappointed like that. Minnesota Golden Gophers. Minnesota gets a B. They finished the season 7-5. I give PJ Fleck a D. Like if I was giving head coach grades to everybody, but PJ Fleck gets a D because I think he's better, and unfortunately, maybe it's the NIL that's holding him back. Pre-NIL deal, maybe Minnesota would be better, but as far as recruiting, they don't have anybody that's shockingly great. So Minnesota, you did good for what you have. Nebraska, and here we go. This is the one team that since they've joined the Big Ten has struggled year after year after year to be relevant in the Big Ten. I'm not even saying relevant on the national level, but Nebraska, all you ever do is finish 7-5. 7-5 is not impressive for you. I mean, if Purdue finished 7-5, that's an A. But Nebraska has consistently disappointed. I've said it for the last couple of years. I have zero faith in the Nebraska program. The problem lies above the coach. Can you believe that? Can you believe that a school program like Nebraska would have this problem for a decade or longer? They got great recruits. They got Dylan Raiola. They got the brother I mean, what is going on? You have Matt Rule as your head coach. You had Scott Frost. I understand there were some issues there. A lot of rumors surrounding what happened there. I'm not getting into that. It's over. He's coaching somewhere else now. But Nebraska, you've got to fix your shit. I'm sorry. I am so sorry that you're going through what you're going through. It would be nice to have that era back for Nebraska. As a Big Ten person, I always thought Nebraska belonged in the Big Ten. Then you came over to the Big Ten, and here you are laying an egg. Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern also gets a C. They finish the year at 6-6. At least they had a 500 record. They had a handful of games that were really awesome that they lost, such as like Michigan. They should have beat Michigan. But Michigan got lucky by, great catch and a last-second field goal to beat Northwestern. So at least Northwestern is entertaining to watch. They're making games close. They're not getting blown out. They are suffering still from the hangover of losing Pat Fitzgerald, one of the greater college coaches that got caught in a scandal that he wasn't to blame. And, hats off to him for recovering from that. It takes a lot of gumption to recover from that, so way to go. But David Braun, you've got some work to do to be relevant in the Big Ten. I know you know that. I know that Northwestern players are there for dual purpose the whole time. They're there to play football. There's no doubt about it. They're high caliber athletes, but the school's program, the school itself, is not built around football. It's beginning to be built around basketball. But the truth of the matter is, you get a C because you were 6-6. You finish 8-4, you get a B plus, right? But you didn't. So UCLA Bruins, I gotta give them, I gotta give them a D because they were 3-6. But the only reason you didn't get an F is because you beat Penn State. You were the one that started the whole downfall of Penn State. So hats off to you for that. You were 3-9 overall, which is really bad. So you should get an F. I think I'd change it to a D minus maybe. Penn State, if there was a grade below an F in the letter scale, you would get it. I'm not even going to go into it here. If you're in the college football world at all, Penn State gets an F. Rutgers, 5-7 overall, but in the Big Ten you were 2-7. You get a D minus. The only reason you don't get an F is because you weren't last. Wisconsin gets an F. This is a program that could have really done well. They finished 4-8. So really, any program that finishes underneath Northwestern gets a terrible grade. They're kind of the standard. Like if you're below Northwestern, or I mean now like Rutgers, yeah. So Michigan State, F. Where's the Michigan State from 10 years ago? Where's the Michigan State from 15 years ago? Somebody please save Michigan State. Michigan needs more competition within that state. Maryland, you get an F also. And Purdue, you perennially get an F. One of the only years you didn't get an F was when you beat Ohio State, when they were top 10 ranked. Loved that. But yeah, that's it. Those are the grades. Probably not surprising. But, you know, in my mind, the teams that really need to start focusing on being good again, that should be good, USC and Michigan. Look, Oregon, how do you like that as a Michigan and a USC fan? That Oregon is better than you every year, except for the year Michigan won.